Alfred, am I pig-headed? Is it always my way or the highway?
Why, yes, actually. Death and chance stole your parents. But rather than become a victim, you have done everything in your power to control the fates. For what is Batman, if not an effort to master the chaos that sweeps our world?
My name is Freeze. Learn it well, for it's the chilling sound of your doom.
You know, in the circus, the Flying Graysons were a team. We had to trust each person to do his job. That's what being partners is all about.
I've come to set you free. I propose a pairing.
What does the lady want in return?
Hi there.
Freeze has escaped.
Hi, Freeze. I'm Batman.
In 1997, the fourth Batman movie hit our screens in the form of Batman and Robin, produced on a huge budget of $125 million. It grossed over $238 million worldwide and was considered a disappointment for Warner Brothers. It didn't make as much money as expected, down to bad reviews and bad word of mouth. It received great numbers on its first week of release, but the box office takings dropped sharply on its second week. The hype for this movie was ridiculous. The adverts and trailers were everywhere, and the toys were littered all over the shops. You couldn't avoid the movie. It came out when I was 14, and I did think it was cool to see Arnold Schwarzenegger as Mr. Freeze. I didn't really know of George Clooney at the time. I thought he looked okay as Batman, but I waited for the reviews because for some reason in the back of my mind, something didn't feel right. On the DVD and Blu-ray making of, the cast felt the movie went into production far too quickly. Batman Forever made loads of money, and Warner's wanted to capitalise quickly on the franchise, which ultimately led to the movie's downfall, and left many feeling embarrassed to have been involved in the production. I also felt the same because Batman and Robin came around too quickly. It took 1 year for Batman Forever to come to VHS after its release, and within 6 months we were already seeing adverts for Batman and Robin. As a fan of Batman, this shouldn't bother me, but I just felt at the time it was happening all too fast. With pretty much all of the crew returning for the fourth movie, it was decided they would use Mr. Freeze and Poison Ivy and take inspiration from the comics and popular cartoon. There was a discussion of casting Patrick Stewart as Mr. Freeze. Even Anthony Hopkins, I believe, was considered. I think if Patrick was cast, it would have been a different movie. You can feel the writer had adjusted Mr. Freeze's dialogue to cater for Arnold's one-liners. The production design for the movie looked really good, and you can see they are going in the right direction in the development process. But what you see on screen in most cases looks drastically different. When Batman Forever was in production, not many companies wanted to get involved in the promotion of it because of the negative results of Batman Returns, upsetting the parents with the dark nature of the movie. So those companies that did get involved with Batman Forever were greatly rewarded after its success. When it came to Batman and Robin, everyone wanted a part of it. Warner's made the big mistake of letting toy manufacturers be heavily involved, so every existing vehicle was redesigned, plus new additions to Batman's arsenal, and of course the new villains were overly designed to appeal to children. The biggest offence was the inclusion of the back credit card, which probably gave hardcore Batman fans a heart attack.
$7 million. Never leave the cave without it.
Joel Schumacher, the director, said Warner's had received loads of mail over the years from fans wanting to see Batgirl, and he also felt there was a lack of female heroines on screen, and that it would be ideal to include her. Joel also decided to shoehorn in Bane, a popular Batman villain introduced in the comics in the early 90s. Bane was very popular with fans, but his character in the movie bears little resemblance to his comic book counterpart, with only a few visual similarities, so you can already tell there are far too many characters in this movie, more than the previous films, which is never a good sign. Val Kilmer decided to do the Saint and didn't tell Joel Schumacher to the last minute. Joel quickly had to find a new Batman. George Clooney was getting rave reviews for his work on ER, and being the great actor he is, Joel made the decision to go with him. George goes for a lighter interpretation of Batman and Bruce, less torn and brooding, and a lot more relaxed, which you could argue by the fourth movie his character would have mellowed by age, but it just kind of comes across as a generic hero, and less like the Batman we know. He doesn't really put on a voice for Batman, it just feels like George is playing himself. Some moments he looks good in the cowl, and others he looks boss-eyed. He does have a good chin though, which is what's needed to pull off the Batman mask. Uma Thurman takes on the role of Poison Ivy. I think she is a great actress, and probably the best thing about this film despite her bad dialogue. She is clearly trying her best with the material. We have Alicia Silverstone as Batgirl. Apparently at the time the media were giving her grief because she had put on some weight, which is really harsh, but hey, the media are evil bastards 95% of the time. Everyone's favourite action star Arnold Schwarzenegger plays Mr. Freeze, and who apparently took a huge payout of $25 million for the role. Arnold is best known for his one-liners, and 90% of his dialogue is one-liners or catchphrases. It's shocking really how often they use it. When he has a regular line of dialogue, which isn't that often, I was taken aback by it. I thought I was watching a different movie. I thought, oh god, is he actually having a proper conversation now? Arnold was barely in the suit, only for close-ups. He had a double for the majority of the film. I think for $25 million, I'd make him wear that suit all the time. In the first few minutes of the film, you already notice problems. Batman and Robin attempt to stop a new villain, called Mr. Freeze, from stealing a batch of diamonds. Before they head out, Robin says he wants a car. Chicks dig the car, and Batman replies, that's why Superman works alone. Which makes no sense and just seems like a quick bizarre reference, maybe thrown in because of the upcoming but cancelled reboot Superman Lives. As they drive off, Alfred appears weak and ill. Batman and Robin surprise Mr. Freeze by taking out his henchman. However, Freeze escapes in a giant rocket that Batman attempts to stop, but gets frozen and trapped inside. Robin is luckily clinging onto the side and sets him free. They chase after Freeze using the doors on the side of the rocket as surfboards, I kid you not. But Robin is too impatient and is frozen by Freeze. Batman has a choice to chase after Mr. Freeze or save Robin. Choosing Robin, Batman unfreezes Robin and returns to the Batcave. They learn that Freeze is actually scientist Dr. Victor Freeze, who became dependent on a diamond-powered Sub-Zero suit. Following an accident in a cryogenics lab, he was occupying to find a cure for his wife Nora, who was suffering from a terminal illness called McGregor's syndrome. This disease is actually an in-joke in reference to the producer Peter McGregor Scott. Meanwhile, botanist Dr. Pamela Isley is experimenting with the strength serum Venom to create mutant plants capable of fighting back against mankind's destruction of flora. She is furious to learn that her senior colleague Dr. Jason Woodrow used her venom samples to transform a prisoner into the super soldier, Bane. When she refuses to become the mad scientist's partner, Woodrow tries to kill Pamela, but instead transforms her into the stunning but deadly Poison Ivy, who in turn kills him with a venomous kiss before vowing to use her new powers to establish botanical supremacy over the world. Alfred's niece Barbara makes a surprise visit from England and is invited to stay at Wayne Manor until she returns to university. Alfred is revealed to be suffering from McGregor's syndrome. The now slightly crazed Dr. Isley interrupts a Wayne Enterprise press conference at the Gotham Observatory, unveiling a new telescope, proposing a new plan to Bruce that would safeguard the natural environment at the expense of millions of human lives. Bruce dismisses her argument and believes people come first. Later, Pamela appears as her costume alter ego, Poison Ivy, at the Gotham Botanical Gardens fundraiser ball, seducing everyone present with her pheromone dust, including the dynamic duo who are there to protect a diamond on auction from Mr. Freeze. Batman and Robin become overpowered by her presence, causing friction between the pair. When Freeze crashes the event as expected, Poison Ivy is instantly captivated by his ruthless charm. Although he proves immune to her love dust, she breaks him free from Arkham Asylum with the help of Bane, after Batman captured him and put him in there. Ivy then proceeds to turn off Nora Freeze's life support, and makes Mr. Freeze believe Batman did it, thereby persuading him that they should kill Batman and the civilians of Gotham. They plan to turn the observatory's new telescope into a giant freezing gun, in order to freeze the whole world's population to death, and replace them with Ivy's mutant plants. The movie had a huge budget, so the visual effects looked great at the time and still hold up well today, thanks to the talents of John Dykstra. He provided his talents in the previous film and continues that level of quality here. The movie does have some spectacular miniature work, especially near the end where the observatory is destroyed, and the shots of Gotham City do look great in miniature form. However, I feel the city does lack a sense of geography to it. It seems overly designed, and whilst the majority of the shots of Gotham are establishing shots that look great, the world does feel kind of empty in a way, and everything is at night, not giving you a great sense of the scale of Gotham. There are 2 shots that seem rushed or incomplete. During the bike race sequence, which ends with Barbara nearly falling to her death, when Robin catches her, the background plate is very dodgy, and when Batman, Robin and Batgirl fly up to the observatory and land inside, you can see the odd clashes of colour, and a smoke-like effect on the left looks incomplete, but I think everything else does look pretty good. Elliot Goldenthal returns to compose the music. His work is unfortunately not available as an official release, and is only available in bootleg form. I personally think the score is even better than his previous efforts. Many Batman fans don't like his music, and yeah, I don't personally think it suits Batman, as I mentioned in my Batman Forever review, but as a standalone piece of work, it can be thoroughly enjoyed by itself. I love the cheesy romantic moments when the jazz melodies kick in. I'm a sucker for a bit of saxophone. There was a pop album released which has music from the Smashing Pumpkins, R. Kelly, R.E.M. and Underworld, just to name a few. The album was actually very popular on release, especially the Smashing Pumpkins track, which won a Grammy, and R. Kelly's Gotham City track, featured in the top 10 charts in many countries. I personally wasn't a fan of this album. It certainly wasn't as good as Batman Forever's. Adding pop music into a film generally dates it very quickly, and takes away the movie's timeless quality. When I was a teenager, I remember watching the Adam and Joe show, and they did a sketch called Vinyl Justice, where they visit musicians and check out their music collection, and they find the Batman and Robin album at Alexis Arquette's place, and they sum up the album perfectly for me.
What the shipping tits is this, sir?
Please.
Batman and Robin. Did you pay money for this, sir? You went into a shop and bought this? Smell it, sir. Go on, give it a good sniff. What does it smell of, sir?
Bone Thugs and Harmony.
It smells of bat shit.
There were 2 video games based on the movie. The first was a sandbox game for the PlayStation 1 produced by Probe Entertainment. It was a very ambitious game but was a dog to play, had a terrible combat system, fiddly controls and an awful camera. I remember reading interviews with the programmers who said the company paid so much for the license to have the rights to produce the game, there wasn't much of the budget left to build a quality title. There was a release on probably the worst handheld device ever made, Tiger's Gamecom. The quality was laughable and the gaming device made it impossible to see what was going on. Stuart Ashens gave a great review of the system, which is worth checking out. Batman and Robin has made the top of many worst comic book movie lists, and even regular movies in general. I wouldn't go as far to say it's the worst movie ever made. I've seen far worse than this, but as a superhero movie, it probably makes the top 3. The faults are visible in the first 10 minutes. I don't think I've ever seen a movie fall apart so quickly. It gives you such a great impression of what direction they are going with, and it totally falls flat on its face. The introduction of Barbara is laughable. She is from England, yet has an American accent. Unlike the comic book, she is not related to Commissioner Gordon, but Alfred instead. She is apparently a computer hacker and can drive a motorbike as well. How she becomes Batgirl is a joke, by hacking Alfred's computer, which has the weakest password ever, and because she locates the Batcave, she can become Batgirl, with little to no experience in hand-to-hand combat. The idea of Alfred being a whiz at technology is a big no-no. He is a butler, not an engineer and designer. In Forever he gets away with designing Robin's outfit, but in Batman and Robin they go too far. It has laughable dialogue that doesn't do the actors any favours for the most part. The characterizations were extremely thin and embarrassing for comic book fans. The backstories for Mr. Freeze and Poison Ivy are so weak and rushed, leaving you with no reasons to care about these characters and to even feel sorry for them. The movie is littered with exposition, making it one of the laziest scripts for a big budget Hollywood film. Some may feel it comes across as a parody. One of the biggest glaring problems is with Bane, just thrown in to be a mindless thug, doesn't do his comic book counterpart justice. Yeah, he is stupidly buff and his mask looks kind of similar, but that's as far as comparisons go. Bane is supposed to be one of Batman's most intelligent enemies. Joel Schumacher said he never had discussions making comparisons with the 60s TV show while he was making the film, and he believes the inclusion of more humour into the story gave the public that impression. But there are loads of moments that feel they are directly taking inspiration from the classic show, especially with its use of colour and music throughout the fight scenes. In regards to its lighting, there are moments where it looks stunning, especially during the scene where they chase Mr. Freeze through the snow, and when Batman thaws out Robin, and most of the scenes at the Batcave. But there are moments where it looks bland, flat and cheap, and quite frankly, rushed. During the daytime scenes where Poison Ivy approaches Bruce with her new business plan, and during the scene where Bruce and Robin fight over her, it looks drab and like it belongs in an early 90s TV show. It's odd, there are shots I think look fabulous, and then some that look really bad. I think it's really down to the filmmaker's quick attempts to get it released. It lacks a consistent quality. The fight scenes are a mess and aren't really that exciting. Everyone jumps around the place like the world they live in is one ginormous trampoline. The changes to the Batsuit and vehicles annoyed me as a teenager. Obviously all changed to sell more toys, but with the Schumacher films they lack consistency in their visuals. Everything changes for the following film. As a kid, when I wanted an action figure of Batman, all I wanted was him in the regular outfit, not some over-the-top yellow suit or slapped all over in silver. Just keep Batman in his regular suit for once. I liked that about Forever. His suit was at least similar to Keaton's. Obviously the bat nipples drove Bat fans crazy. Yeah, it's silly to include them, but it didn't particularly bother me. But I do think it was unnecessary to see Batman and Robin's crotch and bum. But at least we got to see Alicia Silverstone's. By the way, I thought they were trying to make this film family friendly. Okay, let's discuss what I like about this movie. All the scenes with Bruce and Alfred are fantastic. The intimate moments when Alfred is ill in bed and Bruce is trying not to cry because he feels he can't do anything to save him. It shows how good George Clooney is as an actor. And I think these are the best moments for him as Bruce Wayne. Akiva Goldsman's best dialogue is between Bruce and Alfred throughout the movie. As discussed before, there are moments where the photography looks stunning, and the visual effects are pretty much solid and hold up really well, and I love the score. Uma Thurman is a great actress. I think it's the best thing about the movie, and does her best with what she is given. Batman and Robin is a perfect example of too many cooks in the kitchen, too many stupid opinions affecting the whole production and execution of the movie. I doubt this film was even screen tested because it doesn't take an idiot to realise this movie doesn't work at all for an audience, and they would have known it was a mess. Some people like to view it as a comedy, but I feel it wears thin too quickly and becomes a slog to get through. It's just over 2 hours long, and because of the thin story and poor narrative, it moves along at a snail's pace. There are obviously too many egos involved in this production, with everyone thinking about the money rather than making a great movie that will stand the test of time or even satisfy its core audience. I think young kids will enjoy it because they will be at an age where they are most impressionable, and they will love it for the visuals and not care about the story. But Batman has fans of all ages, and anyone over 10 will be annoyed or upset with this film. Joel Schumacher had apologised for the way the movie turned out, and was sorry he upset the fans, but that was never his intention, which is very noble and honest to say. I totally respect him for that. The film was just a job for him, and he did what he was told. Unfortunately, studio executives are not filmmakers and rarely make decent decisions on a creative level. In the late 90s, Warner Brothers seemed to be producing a lot of junk, and Batman and Robin and possibly Wild Wild West were the biggest offenders. Luckily, film studios clearly learnt their lesson when it came to producing superhero films. We have to show respect to the source material and your audience. Toys are the byproduct of a movie, not the other way around. Because of the huge errors made in this film, it made studios think more carefully, and thankfully we started getting more serious comic book adaptations, starting off with Blade, and that serious tone has managed to stay its course for over a decade. If they had waited a bit longer, spending more time with the script, making more careful decisions about casting, and not rushing the production, things may have been executed more successfully. It has some nice ideas, but they are poorly translated throughout the movie. Batman and Robin killed off the franchise, but thankfully Christopher Nolan has managed to restore faith in Batman on the silver screen. I hope you enjoyed the video. Be sure to subscribe to see more retrospectives and commentaries. Also click on the bell to be notified of the latest reviews. If you want access to exclusive videos and to watch my content a few days before it's on YouTube, you can head on over to my Patreon. Thank you very much.